Sean Spicer is the communications director for the Republican National Committee, and he joins us from Washington, D.C. this morning. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Del.
CPAC ending yesterday. We mentioned taking the first place in the straw poll with 31% of those cast. Ted Cruz coming in second at 11%. Dr. Ben Carson at 9%. And Chris Christie, the man that many consider to be the front runner in 2016 on the Republican ticket, coming in fourth. Why fourth for Chris Christie?
Well, I think, frankly, it's very early, Del. The CPAC is just that. It's an organization that has a lot of attendees come, a lot of young people come, and there isn't really active campaigning at this point. So I think I look at the CPAC, and I saw three big takeaways. One, there was huge enthusiasm up and down the ticket. And two, I mean, you walk around and there was a buzz and excitement among the attendees and all the speakers at CPAC. Two is kind of to your point, the depth of the bench, whether it's Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Chris Christie, Marco Rubio, Paul Ryan, Scott Walker. I mean, you saw everybody down the, after the underneath the ticket, getting 3, 4, 5%. There's a lot of enthusiasm for a lot of different players out there, and that's going to create a lot of excitement as we head into the 2016 cycle, which will probably start in earnest after the 2014 midterms. And then I think the last thing is the one thing that kind of permeated every speaker was a desire for Republicans to take back the White House. So each of them got up there and gave their own pitch, but I think all of them were united about the desire that we need to take back this White House.
Mr. Spicer, there has never been any denial that the Republicans want to take back the White House. The issue is always how they get there. Moderate Republicans like Jeb Bush and Chris Christie, as you can see, did not fare well with CPAC. In fact, one of the speakers took to the podium saying, almost declaring war on the way that things have been done in the past, saying there is no President McCain, there is no President Dole. Does he not have a very legitimate point?
Well, I think you're referring to Senator Cruz, obviously, and I think he does have a point in the sense that none of them won. I think there's a lot of question as to why those occurred, and each of them were separate cases.
Well, conservatives say it's because they're not conservative enough, that they ran too far to the left.
Well, I would argue that there are a multitude of reasons, and obviously we here at the Republican National Committee spend a lot of time looking at the 2012 election. Our chairman, Reince Priebus, put together an entire report. I don't think there's any one singular reason. I think that, and we're working to ensure that we lay a better ground for 2016. But that's up to if someone like Ted Cruz wants to run for president, that's a case that he's going to go out there and make. Each of these guys has got to go out there and speak to the grassroots who ultimately elect our nominee and decide what's the best angle for them. But it's, I think that there is no singular reason we lost. There's a lot of multitude reasons, some of them which we're really trying to address here at the Republican National Committee.
One of the criticisms of the Republican Party has been that it is a party of angry white men that talks about what it doesn't like in government, but offers very little in the way of solutions. Based on what you saw at CPAC, did that change last week?
No, well, first of all, I do disagree with that. I think a lot of what is covered about the Republican Party is the opposition. But I think you have seen a lot of we have a huge alternative to health care. We've got 150 bills sitting in a Democratic Senate that will get America back to work and get our economy humming. I mean, each one of these areas, we've got solutions, whether it's energy policy, health care policy, and the economy. I don't think that we get our due coverage of those things because I think it's a lot easier to cover Republicans saying no to the White House, but there's never any coverage about Harry Reid not passing any of the bills.
Let's talk about that one solution then, and that is 50 votes now taken on repealing Obamacare. But the Democratic pushback is always that the Republicans want to get rid of Obamacare, but there are 41 million Americans who wouldn't have insurance without it. How are Republicans going to give them insurance?
Right. I think that's a great point, Del, because it's a false choice. Republicans were left entirely process when they crafted Obamacare, and as you know, there wasn't a single vote for it because they didn't need it. They changed the rules in the Senate to ensure that before then Senator Scott Brown was sworn in that they passed it so that there wasn't any opposition, Republican opposition even in the Senate. What Republicans have talked about are trying to keep costs down, trying to ensure that more people are covered and cover things like pre-existing conditions. So we've talked about things like allowing people to buy insurance across state lines,
but I'll go back to my question, which was how do you provide insurance for 41 million Americans that don't have it right now? That has been the criticism
and so
all
there
along.
are three things that you have to look at. One is providing it to the poor, which is a lot less number. a lot more people covered by Medicaid is what can happen. There's a lot of people on the lower end of the spectrum who frankly choose not to be covered by Medicaid that are eligible for it. So we have to look at that population, one. Two, and then among those who are probably what you would consider middle class, people who could afford it but why they are not getting it, is that we can look at lowering costs and increasing portability, ways that people can take it from job to job to job, things that will lower the cost and increase accessibility. Those are actually pretty easy things to do and things that Republicans have solutions. When you start allowing community-based pooling so that small businesses get the same breaks that big businesses do, that people can buy it across state lines, that will lower the cost and increase quality, those are things that actually are proven to work, but they were left out of the negotiation.
During the 8 years of the Bush years, why didn't Republicans do that?
I think there was a lot of talk about doing that. There was a lot of dissent about what to do and how to do it. It's a point well taken. I think that the desire to get it done was a lot less of an imperative at this point than when having Obama jam down our throat.
One final question. Do you believe that Republicans can win without a centrist candidate? We have Rand Paul on one side. We've got Chris Christie on the other side. Does it have to be somebody in the middle?
No, and frankly, I would dismiss the idea that Chris Christie or anyone, I'm not here to defend him, but I don't think any of these guys are centrist. I think that Chris Christie, that if you look at his positions, he is a pro-life, pro-gun governor. Rand Paul is more of a liberty constitutionalist. But I think every one of the candidates, as I saw at CPAC, was clearly a conservative. I think the degree to which and how they varied on some of those issues may be a little bit different. But there is no one who I would call a centrist or a moderate that I see on that stage at CPAC.
Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the Republican National Committee, joining us as always from Washington, D.C. Mr. Spicer, thank you very much. Democratic Senator